for a better Nigeria, and also had the opportunity to engage these labor leaders. Traditionally, looking at the fight to democracy, and also even in the democratic dispensation, the role of the organized labor cannot be underemphasized. They are known to hold government to account, present demands, and very importantly, represent the interests and rights of workers that they were elected to. Now, one of the things that this town hall meeting gave an opportunity to do was, first of all, obviously, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was able to speak to the representatives present alongside the Speaker of the House of Representatives and governors of other states and his deputy, Kashim Shettima. He also went down memory lane, just highlighting the fact that he was once one of them, talking about his Nadeko days, how he fought, against the military government in order to transition, how he went on exile, and the fact that he could identify with them because he had walked their shoes as well. Now, this gave the workers an opportunity to present their charter of demands. Earlier this year, they had mentioned, the organized labor had said that they were going to hold presidential candidates to account, presenting their charter. Now, some of the things that are highlighted are education, healthcare, energy, security, and according to the meeting yesterday, they said chief of this was going to be on corruption. Earlier this year, Transparency International gave Nigeria its worst ranking with 154 out of 180 countries in terms of its corruption index, making it the worst under, unfortunately, this APC government. We have a big corruption challenge in the nation. Beyond perception, the reality is, day after day, we see the EFCC talking about how they're going to fight and going to win this war against corruption. And don't forget that President Muhammadu Buhari himself was elected on this platform that he was going to fight corruption. Unfortunately, that fight doesn't seem to have been very fruitful. This is what the Labour Party are asking for, that corruption is eroding the very fabric of our democracy, and they must do something about this. Don't forget, Nigeria has 20 million children out of school. They're fighting for education, quality education for Nigerians. And they also put in the charter that elected officials should have their children in schools in Nigeria. They talk about healthcare, primary healthcare in Nigeria. Challenges there, they looked at that. So facing the issues, I'm hoping that beyond speaking to the APC presidential candidates who assured them that he was going to strengthen anti-corruption agencies, they will also hold these parleys with other presidential candidates. And beyond that, that they should sign and hold them to account on this charter so that if any of them emerges as winner next year during the elections, afterwards they will be able to hold them to account and fight for the interests of the Nigerian people whom they represent.
Dr. Batu?
Okay. One, it's good to see the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress engaging with labor leaders. Before now, he had done so with business leaders in Lagos. And now yesterday, he met with labor leaders in Abuja as part of a series of targeted, properly focused engagement with various constituencies. Before then, it was also in Minna, where he met with SME entrepreneurs, and he has also been to Kano and other parts of the country. Well, labor, of course, is very important. It's a no-brainer. I mean, those two unions that he met with yesterday, the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC, the Trade Union Congress, represent virtually, the majority of workers in the country, all workers in the country, to put it in that regard. And so he made a point that it's not just working with business, he also has to work with labor leaders. I mean, the workforce of Nigeria, who in any case constitute the majority of voters, whichever way you look at it, because at the end of the day, we are all the workers. The purpose of the meeting, we were told, is to present the Tinubu Shettima action plan for a better Nigeria. And at that occasion, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu talked about, one, the fact that he has always identified with the labor cause, having been himself in the trenches for the fight for justice in Nigeria, for the fight for democracy in Nigeria. And as governor of Lagos State, he was very strong on the idea of federalism and equity. And, the Constitution serving the purpose for which, it was created. And so this was something that will resonate, of course, with members of the organized labor. Many of them who had in fact also been partners in that struggle that he talked about. Then he emphasized the fact that beyond being fellow travelers in the task to make Nigeria a better place, that he has concrete programs as president. He said he will address the problem of unemployment. He will create a credit system to give opportunities to workers. He will address the challenge of poverty. He will look at the educational system. He would transform the country's weak industrial base. Those are some of the issues he said he was going to do. And that as governor of Lagos State, he took Lagos State to a level where it became the 5th largest economy in the whole of Africa. And if you look at, the whole point that he was pushing, this is a point that he had, argued extensively about in his book on federalism. Progressive democratic socialism, progressive democracy, justice, equity, opportunities. All of these issues are issues that anyone can relate with. But what even made that meeting with Labour more important is that he had amongst the Labour leaders themselves persons who are in his corner and who in fact used that platform also to promote him. Someone like Comrade Issa Aremu. I thought I read something about Comrade Issa Aremu telling his fellow comrades that, look, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the best man for the job. Comrade Adam Sushiomole, who had also been president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, was also spoke on that occasion. And then, of course, the Charter of the Demand that you referred to, basically, they're asking for socio-economic justice, which workers can relate to. And they say they want total war on corruption. However, one fallout of that meeting has been some commentators, saying that, there is trouble for Peter Obi, Mr. Peter Obi, the candidate of the Labour Party, that the candidate of the APC was meeting with Labour leaders who are supposed to be in Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's constituency. Well, those who are making that kind of point, they simply miss the point. They don't understand. In a democratic process, every candidate should be given the opportunity to engage with constituency, with stakeholders. The Labour community is not a personal property of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. So Labour leaders have an interest to engage everybody, all the 18 presidential candidates. So I think it's important to put that out there, that in an open contest, no candidate should be restricted from having access to any constituency or stakeholders.
So one thing has to be said, good engagement on behalf of, by the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He needs to meet Labour because Labour plays an integral role in this country. We can't deny that fact. Trade union congresses since the time of Pa Michael Imodu. We all remember how the 1945 or the 40s strike, led by the likes of Michael Imodu, fought the British colonial government. So it is not today that Labour has played a critical role in this country. They always play a great role. But the question is, the concerns raised about Nigerian workers, how is the presidential candidate of the APC going to create solutions? He talked about the textile factories out of Kaduna and parts of the north. Kano used to be a big industrial heartland, Bompai to be precise. What happened to those factories? How is he going to solve the problem? Because most of those problems that affected manufacturing were tied to our currency problem and the economy not doing well. I remember very vividly how we used to have a lot of lace-making factories in the southwest here. But when we had the currency crisis of 1986 January, most of those companies couldn't meet up any longer, so they shut down. SOCAS comes to mind, and some other lace-making factories. Thousands of jobs were lost. how is it going to revive our currency? Because you see, for manufacturing to be great, then you must be able to block loopholes that impede manufacturing. Economic conditions. How do you stop economic saboteurs? Our border is very porous. The likes of Adebowale, a lot of people forget, in the 70s in this country, started manufacturing refrigerators. At some point, yes, in case you're just hearing me, refrigerators were made in Nigeria. Debo refrigerator. But we all know what happened to the likes of Adebowale. Smuggling of other goods came in, and it stifled the manufacturing prospect of Nigeria. So it is not that we have not had Nigerians in the past that have tried producing things, but the economic parameters always act against them. So how is it going to solve the problem? There are 20.2 million out-of-school children. How is it going to solve the problem? That number will not reduce except we stop the problem of insecurity in other parts of the country. How is it going to solve the problem? There's problem of economic uncertainty. The over 30,000 or 30,000 minimum wage is almost impossible for workers to go home with that. I don't like to benchmark with a bag of rice, but the minimum wage can probably not get them a bag of rice. People are talking in terms of, I think Showore has talked about 100,000 being a sensible wage for workers to take home. Some people have made arguments about how are we going to solve those problems. So I'm happy Mr. Tinubu is talking to Labour, but he should also talk solutions, because you see, after all of this poetry of campaigns we have, it will end on the 25th of February, or probably a week after, when the winner have been announced. But let's not forget, we'll all have to come together to think through how we are going to solve the problems that confront us. Leaders will come and go, but Nigerian problem has still remained the same over the years. How can we solve them and start to provide solutions once and for all? We'll move on to the next story. Benue State Governor Samuel Otom says issues dividing People's Democratic Party will soon be over. During an expanded stakeholders meeting at the government house in Makurdi, Otom hinted that different factions are already resolving the matter, dividing them.
Let nobody deceive you and think that we are the leadership, we are divided. We are not divided. We are strategizing. And by the grace of God, those issues that would have divided us, we are tackling them. And if there is need to inform you about the national politics, that we are going to do. But for us in Benue State, it is a seed matter that we are not divided. We have issues at the national level we are discussing, and by the grace of God, we will overcome them.
Right, a lot to talk about this morning.
Yes, well, PDP crisis, it's been on the table for a number of weeks, months, and unfortunately, this has gone on a bit too. Now people are saying, sort your house together, put your house in order so that you can focus on representing the people properly. Elections are going to be in a matter of weeks, and yet we're still looking at internal wranglings within the PDP. Don't forget, we have the G5 governors who have said that if that their grievance is that the chairman of the PDP, Senator Iyorchia Ayu, and the presidential candidate, Waziri Atiku Abubakar, are from the same zone, geopolitical zone, and this isn't right. Just balance that side by side with what President Muhammadu Buhari of the APC had said. Perhaps there'll be relief from that, where he said that one of the strongest points for the APC is for them to remain united so that they can do well at the polls in the next few weeks. Unfortunately, the PDP cannot boast of this. Second of all is also the fact that they need to focus on the issues. Don't forget that Governor Samuel Ortom has always been said he's open to reconciliation, hasn't closed that door. That despite the agitations of fair representation across board, he has said that they are open to reconciliation. So he was just reiterating what he had always said. It's also important to note, we had this conversation yesterday, that the presidential candidate of the PDP had said that his appointments would be based on merit and federal character, ensuring there was fairness and fair representation. Unfortunately, this doesn't augur well for him, because even within his party, they're still sorting out the issues of fair representation and zoning. Very, very important. Also, just putting that side by the fact that if things are going to be sorted, there's been a reappointment. Senator Ademola Adeleke, the governor of Osun State, has now been made the coordinator of the Southwest region for the PCC, Presidential Campaign Council of the PDP, displacing or replacing Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State. More details will come up, but it'll be interesting to understand why in the face of these challenges.
Dr. Martin?
Well, there was a meeting about a day ago or so of members of the Integrity Group, including Governor Samuel Ortom himself, Governor Wike, and others, according to reports. And then a team from the presidential campaign, the Atiku campaign, led by Governor Fintiri of Adamawa. And that meeting was part of attempts, to resolve the conflict within the party. But at that particular meeting, we were told that, look, nobody shifted grounds. The Fintiri-led group was saying, well, whatever grievances that the Integrity Group had put on the table will be addressed after the election. And that in itself was a major point of disagreement. Governor Ortom was there, according to the reports. Governor Makinde was there. Governor Ifeanyi Ugwanyi was there. Other members, of the Integrity Group were present. So at what point, was it before that meeting or after that meeting that Governor Ortom is now saying PDP will overcome its challenges and that groups are talking among themselves? Well, the main oxygen of a politician is optimism. You will never find a politician who is not an optimist. So politicians are always looking forward to a better tomorrow. However, the development after that meeting was that the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party now decided to appoint Governor Adeleke of Osun State as the coordinator of the presidential campaign, PDP Presidential Campaign Council in the Southwest, thus removing Governor Makinde. And it's understandable. One, they've not been able to reach any agreement with the Integrity Group, a wing of the PDP still. Two, Governor Makinde and others had also made it clear that they will not campaign at the presidential level for the PDP. In Port Harcourt, for example, the campaign vehicles there, under the leadership of Governor Wike of the PDP, do not have Atiku Abubakar's pictures. The same situation is what obtains in Oyo State, where Governor Makinde himself is looking for a second term, but he has not shown up at any of the major campaigns or rallies held by the presidential candidate of the party. It therefore makes sense to say, well, since you are indifferent about the campaign, the presidential candidate has now chosen Governor Adeleke of Osun, who has shown great enthusiasm at the various rallies that have been held, and at every rally, almost engaging in a dancing competition with Dino Melaye and, with all those moves. So he has been rewarded for his enthusiasm, and I think it's a natural thing for the presidential candidate to say, well, we have an alternate governor in the Southwest who will dance and sing and campaign and paste posters. So, fair enough, isn't it?
I mean, because of time, I'll just make a quick comment. The new decision the PDP has made to move on and bring in somebody to coordinate their campaigns in the Southwest is in line with the saying that nature abhors a vacuum. if the G5 Integrity Group have been fighting the larger body of the PDP all this while, based on their own convictions, the larger body will have to move on at some point to make its own decisions. Nature abhors a vacuum. Probably, if they settle, they can come back together and realign. But nature abhors a vacuum. Hence, if Adeleke is there, they've been able to give him the job. But for me, the PDP will sort out its own problem at its time when their interests align. Political parties will sort out their problems when their interests align. The question I keep asking every day is, what is in your own best interest as the Nigerian people? And when will you get people that will align with your interest? That's all that matters for me. Politicians will be politicians. But the real issues that affect you need solutions. In the bid to connect to creatives opportunities around, they require to build sustainable careers professionals. The British Council, in partnership with Task, has put together a program for young creatives to grow and succeed. Musumola Ogiolu at the event was there, and she has this report.
The Creative Economic Showcase program, an initiative of the British Council in partnership with Task, aims to stimulate links among Nigerian creatives by providing a platform to display their exceptional talents in film, music, fashion, and dance at no cost to the exhibitionists.
So this is our Creative Enterprise Support Program, and basically looking at the events post-COVID, a lot of creatives didn't have an opportunity to work during the pandemic, you understand? So what we're doing is providing support to platforms like Task and a few other platforms across Nigeria, to support artists to come back to showcasing and exhibition. What I'm doing is looking for opportunities, to partner with creatives to increase their success, increase their prosperity, and hopefully find lasting legacy and build connections between Nigeria and the UK.
The project manager of Task, Debbie Romeo, says the program seeks to equip creatives with the skills they need to build a sustainable career through workshops, training in business and digital skills, access to new market, resources and financial opportunities.
After the pandemic, as the pandemic was rolling out and people were getting more comfortable with coming out, British Council decided to support some creators by giving them the space and providing some funding for them to be able to have a platform to perform, to get people around and use their backdrop to be able to draw attention to themselves. So that's the main foundation behind the idea, to get creatives together, talk to them about their difficulties, create training programs for them like the one that we just saw, where people talk to them about practical things that they can do to improve their profile, to improve their performances, which is what is tied under the creative hustles, and then the showcases of our performances and showing their talents to the world.
The whole world is open to hearing from Africans. If you really traveled around the world before, you know that the impression about Africans is sort of like we're like the backward citizens of the world. It's not a true thing, but that's how we are treated generally. But I think that something happened in COVID where everybody got a chance to see, and they saw that the Africans are really the ones that have that ginger, have that authenticity, have the culture, have the music. And I think it's the time for African culture to conquer the world.
The objective of this program is to build a strong British Council Nigeria Arts alumni network by increasing the creation of new art and sharing the art with audiences.
That's all the news headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Michael Wilson and Rich Sadiri to give us updates on global and African business. Stay with us.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get it to the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft overdraft. Step by step to my dream business with Vault. Vault is the answer. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Yeah. Vault is the answer. Quick sign up, zero paperwork. Step by step to your dream business with Vault. By Polaris Bank.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Vault is the answer.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Amazing. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas.
Glow wishes you a Merry Christmas.
It's a new dawn for Nigeria. Oh, better days are coming. Better days that gives us hope and strength. Bola Tinubu is determined to keep this hope alive. Bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
It's a new dawn in Nigeria. Renewed hope beckons on our people. The silver lining dots the skies. The firmament portends a bright future as the people of Nigeria move to vote a man whom they have come to trust for the realization of their aspirations for a better Nigeria. That man is Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. He has been tested. He can be trusted. Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as President of Nigeria 2023. Vote Kashim Shettima as Vice President. Vote APC. Surely with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the smiles are returning. We are close to home.
Bring the smiles back to all Nigerians.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. For Global Business Update, Michael Wilson joins us now from Cape Town, South Africa. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Yes, the Far East markets once again reflecting on the fact that global growth is set to slow, and that's affecting them all. The Japanese have been experimenting with something which is quite interesting. It's called yield curve control. It's intensely technical, but the long and the short of it is it's supposed to actually keep 10-year yields on gilts at zero, which means that banks can presumably lend more and therefore help the economy. That's what they're trying to do. Stocks still fell, but the yen strengthened as a result of that. Let's turn our attention to China. And we've been talking, it seems like forever, doesn't it, about the woes of the giant tech firms like Alibaba and Tencent and so on. There's a feeling that these stocks are now moving from recovery into regulation. That may not seem like a good thing, but if the regulation's slightly clearer, then it's felt that these probably are quite good investments for 2023. China is abruptly also withdrawing a lot of the anti-COVID restrictions. Again, we'll see how that actually works out, but that's adding a certain optimism to the markets there and the surrounding Asian markets as well. Certainly one thing they've done is they've slashed testing requirements so that citizens in China can move around a lot more easily. As far as the United States is concerned, once again, the Dow in regular trades that shed 162 points. Futures are up very, very marginally. There's a feeling now that all the bad news is probably in. There won't be any moves, it's felt, until February from the Fed, but investors are still worried about a recession, so certainly no Santa rally there. The FTX founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, is back in jail in the Bahamas. He planned to waive his extradition objections to the United States, but it was a very confusing day yesterday. The long and the short of it is he's back in court later this week. He clearly doesn't want to surrender himself to the UK, to the rather US custody at the moment. But again, a very, very confused picture. Elon Musk, we were talking about that yesterday, weren't we? And he said to his Twitter followers, if you tell me to step down, then I will. Well, a 57% majority said, yes, please, we'd like you to step down. This is a continuation of the kind of woes that have been affecting Twitter. Social media platforms have been there's been a big halt in promotional policy for other media platforms. Private policy has changed a great deal. Some journalists have had their accounts broken. Adversaries and so on are plenty. But what actually he said was in a tweet not that long ago that there is no replacement for him. So again, where's he going after this? Who alone knows? The European Union, through its legislative power, the EC, the European Commission, has approved limits on natural gas prices. It's been 2 months of negotiations. They've been very, very tough ones indeed. Germany, for example, has resisted that kind of change because it's very worried about it having had such a large dominance on Russian gas, what it'll mean for its citizens. All that comes into force on the 15th. It's said to be a dynamic cap. In other words, it's supposed to level out the spikes. It's very, very technical. I won't bore you with the detail, but the bottom line is that when the price hits 180 euros per megawatt hour for 3 days or longer, then those caps, that particular cap will start. And the EU is also flexing its final muscles. It could be fining Meta, which is the owner of Facebook, about $11.5 billion. The reason for that is that Facebook, this is about classified advertising, and it's a feeling that Meta is abusing its market position by having Facebook Marketplace alongside Facebook. So things are getting quite tough for social media. As far as the UK is concerned, yes, I talked yesterday about the grip of strikes and so on. Since we spoke yesterday, British Airways and Virgin have decided to halt flights on strike days into Heathrow because the border staff are on strike. The first walkout is on December the 23rd, and it's stopped on all of the 11 flight days, and Heathrow and Virgin has too. Heathrow is asking the airlines not to cancel flights, so a very, very confused picture. Seems to me a good place to avoid, quite honestly. And oil, finally, oil ticking up. I've got Brent at about $80 a barrel, West Texas Intermediate about $76 a barrel, and that's simply on China reopening after its very, very strict COVID lockdown. So that's the global view this morning.
Right, real quickly, when will this debacle end between the EU and social media sites? Because the more they try to find them, for various reasons, the more they become powerful. Have we been able to develop a proper regulatory sandbox as regards this information superhighway that we have come to accept, which is the social media? So is it just going to be pockets of fine going forward? Because we must be able to collapse our interest with this level of innovation we have in the world today, which is the social media.
It may be an information highway, it may be an information superhighway, but what it doesn't do is to exclude itself from competition laws, which the EU is very, very keen on, and the EC is legislative arm particularly. And I think most countries around the world are doing that. I've said it many, many times on this programme, and I'll say it again. I feel as though the regulation days are only just starting for social media and only just starting for the likes of Facebook. And so they're seen as what I said, the horrible phrase, low-hanging fruit. In other words, they make so much money that people are happy to bring fines to them. And I think that's what we're seeing from the EU right now, as far as Meta's concerned. And it's supposed to be anti-competitive stance on classified advertising. I mean, we'll see what happens over the coming year. But I feel as though this regulation, yes, is just the start. I don't think it is going to go away. I think, that there may be an information superhighway, yeah, certainly. And there may be a lot of free speech, certainly. But all those things come at a price. And one of those prices is competition policy, which is supposed to be healthy for the consumer.
All right, thanks, Michael. Going back to Elon Musk and this poll that he's done, says 10 million people actually voted. And as you mentioned, majority voted in favor of him stepping down as CEO, 57 to 43. Now, Elon Musk, who was in Qatar for the closing ceremony of the World Cup, hasn't responded. However, it would be interesting to see what his response will be. Yesterday we talked about the fact that he himself had admitted that, or had said that no one would be willing to take on the job as CEO and, address the issues that Twitter currently has, and that he doesn't have a successor yet. It'll be interesting to see who are the possible successors to Elon Musk. And then very quickly as well, just to talk about the effect on Tesla as well. Some board members and senators saying that he has failed, he has let down the board members in terms of protecting the interests of as CEO of Tesla with his distractions, as they've called it, with Twitter. What's your take on this?
I think so. I mean, I'm just quoting what Elon Musk actually said on Twitter. No possible successor at Twitter. And I think, as I said to you yesterday, would you want the job? I wouldn't want it. I think things are going to get very tough indeed. I think the problems with Tesla and the problems with SpaceX are going to be, and indeed Mars, landing on Mars and habitating Mars a lot of people are saying that those problems are nothing compared with the ones that face Twitter at the moment, because nobody's quite sure how this platform, whatever you think about it, is actually going to make money. And he, as he himself said, no possible successor at Twitter. And yet, people, or at least it appears as though the majority of people voted for him to stand down. Now, there may be a lot of malicious comments in that. Who knows? But that's what he said. He said he would be bound by it. So let's see how it develops. I have no idea. I don't know anybody that would want to take that role, because if you're going to be the managing director or the CEO of a company, you have at least to have some idea of where the company's supposed to be headed. And at the moment, we have no idea at all. It's not a job that anybody would want.
Yeah, you are quite right on that note. Who is going to work with Elon Musk with the unorthodox manner in which he runs his business? Chaos, uncertainty in Twitter, such that on Wall Street, Tesla has now even been downgraded for no reason other than that the confusion at Twitter, the public backlash against Elon Musk is affecting Tesla, which is also his company. But you talked about the border officials who are going on strike and all the flight disruptions. I would have thought that the bigger problem is the NHS meltdown. Pat Cullen, the boss of the Royal College of Nursing, is asking the Prime Minister, talk to us and give us a deal that will not make you break the bank. But the Prime Minister says the demands are unreasonable. And Steve Barclay, who is supposed to meet with 3 unions today, is not necessarily proposing any serious solution. He just wants to get a 9/9 cover for people who cannot have access to ambulances. Do you think that this crisis, if it goes on, could be the beginning of the end of the Sunak leadership, particularly as the majority of people in England seem to be behind the nurses?
I think it could be. the beginning of the end for an administration. Strikes in the past have brought down governments in the United Kingdom. The difference between today and then is that there aren't that many. There aren't a similar kind of members of union. Membership total, I think, is what I'm trying to say, of unions that there has been in the past. And we haven't heard from the train passengers. We haven't heard from the NHS users. All we've heard is we've heard from the nurses union. We've heard from the government, and we've heard from people who, as journalists, are getting picked up on the news broadcasts who are actually suffering. But the great silent majority of the United Kingdom has not actually voted yet, and we don't know. Yes, it could bring down the government. It's almost unsolvable. I was talking to on another broadcast yesterday to somebody who is one of Britain's best-known businessmen and best-known philanthropists, a towering figure in the city, Lord Michael Spencer. And what he said was, when asked about the National Health Service, and this very much goes along with what I've been saying. I'm not trying to put myself in to be any kind of equal to him at all, but I'm just saying that I think this is the feeling right now, that what it needs right now is an apolitical probe of what it actually does, and it should be judged on not inputs, which civil servants are very good at, but outputs. In other words, what is the result? How is it actually dealing with the problems it's supposed to deal with? This is something which no politician will actually do right now, because the NHS is a sacred cow as far as the majority of people in the country are concerned. Now, that view has to change. I don't know. I worked in it myself when I left university. I don't think it's sufficient. I was staggered by what we now call the silo effect of the National Health Service. All the various people working in all the specialties and all the divisions with no idea about the delivery of the whole. That is the problem, and that is a really big. It's the largest employer in the world, and it really needs to be brought to heel and knocked back into shape. And that is an enormous job, a very, very big job indeed.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. Now, for business updates across the African continent, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers. The World Bank has released its latest Nigeria development updates, very, I would say, appropriately titled Nigeria's Choice. And, I mean, from an economic standpoint, maybe that means Nigeria's policy choice, but then also, maybe cryptically as well, election choice as far as candidates for leadership. Yeah. This is very important here. Overview: Nigeria is in a challenging and deteriorating, which means it's getting worse, economic situation. The economic performance has weakened since the previous development updates published in June. They publish this twice a year and review the macroeconomic conditions across the nation. This chart really, just as far as our oil issues, the light blue chart is oil prices. Oil prices and our fiscal revenues have been, it's like a choreographed dance. They've been moving in tandem. You can see from 2010 up at 13% of GDP. They both moved all the way down to when the first recession of Buhari's presidency in 2016 hit. They both went in tandem and then rose up when the economy recovered 2017, 2018, and then dipped again. But look at 2020. So your black line is revenue, or dark blue is revenue for Nigeria. Look at the disparity. No, let's go back. Let's still stick with that first chart. You can see the blue line. If we go back, if we see the blue line rocketing all the way upwards to about $100 per barrel, yet you can see Nigeria's revenues staying where they are on oil theft, infrastructure challenges, so on. Next chart, pretty much the same story. This is dark blue is our reserves and our ability to defend the currency. And you can see the light towards the end to the right, oil prices up and your reserves have not moved. And don't be confused, the right side of the chart is price per barrel. The left side is $1 billion. That's where our reserves are, which are about 38 billion now. We move on from there as far as what they've pointed out. This is very, very interesting here. This is our exchange rate. Remember, we're talking about Ghana and we've talked about other nations, especially Ghana's cedi being one of the worst performing currencies in the world, down about 40%. But the external reserves, which is your dark blue line at the bottom there, you're seeing where it is. Now, the light blue line is the official exchange rate, which from about, February of this year going to November, has only depreciated about 5%. However, if you use the gray line at the top, the parallel market rate, you can see it going from about 425 to almost 800, where it was at that peak a while ago. That's a depreciation of about 40-45%, which if you were to use the parallel market rates, the Naira has depreciated at almost the same level as either the Sri Lankan rupee or even the cedi. We move on from there, and this is another very pertinent chart from the World Bank. You're looking at GDP growth, the bars, the dark blue bars, and then the horizontal line across, the horizontal light blue line is your population growth. So you can see that from your 2010s through about 2014, we're averaging growth of about 6-7%, in fact, almost as high as 8% back in 2010, and then it leveled off when the recessions hit, COVID, and so on and so forth. So now, towards the further right, from about 2021 through what they forecast for 2024. By the way, they've forecast, I think, 2.9% GDP growth for next year. We're barely growing above population growth, which means that our ability to be able to lift people out of poverty and so on and so forth, strain on our resources, is going to be very difficult. Again, I repeat, deteriorating economic situation. After that, they talked about inflation, and this is very key here. They said as many as 5 million Nigerians have been pushed into poverty as a result of inflation in 2022. The World Bank estimates that between 2020 and 2021, inflation pushed about 8 million more Nigerians below the poverty line. I'll get to that figure, 1.12, in a second, increasing the total number of poor people to about 90 million. Higher inflation in 2022 is estimated to have pushed an additional 5 million Nigerians into poverty. And then if you drop ahead, you'll now see the chart that they're talking about, where you actually see those. Let's take a look at the chart where there it is. So that's before the price shock, and then it now moves to 2020, 2021. The light blue line is the additional number of people that fell into poverty. So when you think about where inflation should be as a priority for this administration, every month when the jobs numbers come out, Joe Biden talks to Americans and tells them where inflation is. Rishi Sunak has made inflation his number one issue. The urgency doesn't seem to be here, but the World Bank is telling us that, and by the way, we've openly questioned even whether that 21% is even accurate, whether it could be higher. Inflation is literally making Nigerians poor and causing a lot of financial issues for a lot of people in this country. We move on to Ghana. Ghana has essentially, I think, technically defaulted on its debts. This is a letter from the Ministry of Finance saying that they were going to suspend payments on select external debts, Euro bonds, and so on and so forth. I think the market kind of priced it in because Ghana's Euro bonds are trading in junk status, about 30-35 cents on the dollar. So, but anyway, they want to give enough time to be able to talk to their creditors. And then Kenya, the IMF has disbursed, I think, an additional $447 million to Kenya, and the funds are essentially supposed to assist them with respect to, I think in total they've disbursed about $2.4 billion now to Kenya. And if you look at the purpose of the disbursement, it's supposed to assist them with their budgets, COVID shocks, exogenous shocks, and so on and so forth. So so there it is. Kenya debt vulnerabilities, which we talked about extensively yesterday, support for COVID response, support against exogenous shocks, and then enhancing governance and broader economic reforms. That's what we're seeing with three big economies on Africa.
Three big economies, the same problem.
Yep.
You see?
Oh yeah, the Kenya shilling has fallen to a new low.
Before Uncle.
Yeah, exactly.
Before Uncle.
Of course.
With all of this happening in Kenya, it will not fall.
Of course.
And this is a new low. This is with Kenya shilling that used to be about 100.
Yeah.
At the point, now it's now 123.
Yeah.
You get, that's 123 Kenya shilling to $1. But a lot of people even still argue that what is our Naira to the dollar?
Hey,
over 700.
770 as your
in fact, we've lost track.
Yeah.
But these are the same problems. And the IMF was, knock on wood, correct about this. The World Bank was correct about this. Inflation is the tax poor people pay on incompetence.
Yep.
And that's what the poor people are, and it will only throw people into more inflation.
5 million.
5 million people into poverty.
5 million.
And I'm not surprised about this record. Look at also the numbers. The time we ought to be making money. Crude oil revenues have gone up. Now we're not making because of crude oil theft.
Qatar and the World Cup, right? Yeah.
Qatar is making a lot. They've been able to develop their economy with the World Cup. You can see how jobs are going. And that's why, please, it is not a joke for 2023. Whoever comes in, we must be able to get monthly job numbers. You know why? It's only accountability that can lead us.
Agreed.
If we are not getting monthly job numbers, it is like a child going to school, doing exams, but doesn't want to see the results because they know they are not doing well.
Right.
You need to be able to see the results as an appraisal tool. But I'm not surprised. Look at the fiscal numbers, the fiscal revenue. Everything is plummeting. We're in dire strait today. To pay our debt have become problematic. Yep. Look at our debt's revenue to service ratio.
Yep, they even talked about that, just because of time.
Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
The numbers are down. So even the resource we have to be able to shape up the economy, which is crude oil, we can't even make anything out of that again. But I keep arguing, Rotus. Nigeria, as with every African country, has got so much potential. Nigeria is the best kept secret, but we don't have leaders that think properly.
That's right, Nigeria's choice.
Yes, we've not been able to unlock gas. Look at the gas party going on in the world now because of the Russo-Ukrainian crisis. We've not been able to unlock gas. This is the only time, because of terrible leadership, that Nigeria has not benefited from crude oil price rise. The first time Nigeria had a big economic surge, Nigeria tripled its GDP from about 10, 15 billion after the 70s, after the Civil War, to about 50, 60 billion in the leading up to the early 80s, or more than that, was after the Yom Kippur War in 72. That petrol prices rose from $3 per barrel to $12 per barrel. That was when Nigeria said the problem is not money. The leader, Yakubu Gowon, said the problem is not money, but how to spend it. Yeah. That was when we gave the Udoji Award. But you see, today we cannot do the same because we have squandered our riches. Crude oil theft, legacy problems and the likes. And look at Kenya, that's what is happening. Look at Ghana. This was the same Ghana that lied when Bloomberg released the report as of last year and said Ghana is in dire straits. Ghana denied it.
They questioned the expertise
of Bloomberg.
Yeah.
So who is saying Untoyin for other now? Is it not Bloomberg that is saying Untoyin for Ghana? Yeah. Look at Kenya too. Because of mismanagement, bad leadership, because Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to favor his own political inclinations. Subsidies here and there, not telling yourself the economic truth, squandering of riches during COVID, and see where we are in Africa. The question is, all these countries have potentials. Like I say, Nigeria is the best kept secret. And that's why if we get leadership right in 2023, I can see a 10% economic growth in the next 10 years.
Amen
if we get leadership right. It's not a case of amen. We have done it before. See the quagmire we're coming from the military, and see the kind of leadership Olusegun Obasanjo just showed that put up growth. He didn't need to do too much.
And the World Bank praised him in the report.
He didn't need to do too much. Obasanjo didn't need to do too much.
They praised his administration.
So I don't know why people make it feel as if it's rocket science running this country.
Well said, Rufai. Absolutely well said. Rotus, the numbers and the reality, very stark and, almost depressing, to be fair. Now, I want to focus on job rate of unemployment, job loss. In fact, the World Bank postulates that by 2030, 80 million Nigerians will be unemployed.
Right.
Don't forget the last unemployment statistics we had from the NBS, National Bureau of Statistics, was 2 years ago, where they put it at about 33.3% of 122 million Nigerians out of work. What the World Bank has proposed in their report is that Nigeria should focus more on the private sector. And the basis for that is that the private sector accounts for 90% of Nigeria's GDP and 94% in terms of job creation. Now, if we're focusing on because again, talking about plunging people into poverty, that is also a marker. If people don't have, and then they talk about in-work poverty around that, especially in the agriculture sector. Don't forget that the inflation rates, as we've seen, rising rising, yet minimum wage hasn't increased. We're still at 30,000 naira, with some states still not fulfilling that. So very important points to note from the World Bank, and not just, as sometimes happens, we decry and say that, the numbers are not factual. Let's look at it. Private sector. President Muhammadu Buhari came with guns blazing with regards to the private sector, especially with establishing, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, and policies pushing to ensure that the private sector thrives in Nigeria. A big, massive push on SMEs, small and medium-scale enterprises, who obviously accounts for a large percentage of job creation in Nigeria. Unfortunately, this hasn't worked. And like Rufai has mentioned again and again, we must look at leadership. We must look at policies, because it almost seems as if there's no solution, to the problems that we have, or it's a Herculean task. But we have seen again and again, with political will and the right leadership, we can get it right, in terms of steering the nation back to economic thriving, if I could put it that way. So in terms of the private sector, let's focus on that. Let's hear what the next set of leaders who are vying for your votes are saying about their policies with regards to the economy. How long can we continue? Just think about it. To the common man, to the ordinary Nigerian, just think your purchasing power last year, let's not even go as far back as 4 years ago, what you can buy, when you go into the supermarkets, you go into the markets, what your naira could buy, just simply put, breaking it down. What can he buy today? Right. Let that make you think and not be emotional when it comes to choosing the right leader. Very important. Nigeria's choice.
Okay. Let me start with Nigeria.
Yes.
With the Nigeria Development Update by the World Bank, which was in fact presented last week by the chief economist of the World Bank in Nigeria, and the country director, anyway. Now, in terms of content, the report is telling us everything that we already know about tight fiscal situation, weak macroeconomic framework in Nigeria, foreign reserves falling, Nigeria not being able to take advantage of the rise in the global price of crude oil, and how Nigeria's problem is revenue, whereas it has the opportunity to make better revenue. And in the face of all of this, population of Nigeria, according to that report, is growing at 2.6%. Inflation is rising, high on high. Unemployment rate is very high. One report was even saying that unemployment rate in South Africa is 39%. One of the things that Ramaphosa now has to deal with, after winning the battle within the ANC. But the other two countries that that particular report mentioned are Namibia and Nigeria.
Indeed.
Two countries with higher rate of unemployment, according to this other report. But the thing about the Nigeria Development Update by the World Bank is that there is some optimism there. The report says if Nigeria can embark on reforms, specific reforms, what the report calls business unusual choices, then it is still possible to rescue the situation. And the report goes ahead to make a number of recommendations. Immediate removal of subsidies. They were very clear on that. Social protection program for the poor and the vulnerable. A unified exchange rate. Okay? Fiscal prudence. Policies, proper alignment between monetary and fiscal policies. In sum, that's what the report, is talking about, and then provides statistics, graphs, to back it up. Okay, where am I going? It is to recommend that I hope that report will be made available to all these political parties who want to transform Nigeria, who say they have the capacity to lead. There's nothing wrong in getting ideas from everywhere. And if, the copies have not been circulated yet, the strategies for the various political parties should go to the World Bank office and collect copies. And not just collect copies, they should sit down and read that report. Even if some of those recommendations are not really original, they've been with us. Now, let me go to Ghana. Now, Ghana, last week, was able to strike a $3 billion deal with the IMF. Now, but that deal will still have to go to the board for ratification. This is staff level agreement. there were conditionalities attached, even to that staff level agreement.
Yes.
How Ghana can address its problem, its serious debt crisis, the collapse of the cedi, the tension on the streets of Ghana leading to protests. So, is it possible that this suspension of debt payments is part of that agreement with the IMF? Now, they are focusing on bilateral, credits, trade level facilities, Euro bonds. Yeah, but they are not touching certain other categories. But the question to ask is bad news for Ghana. What is likely to be the reaction of investors? Would this not further erode investor confidence in Ghana? Would international rating agencies not further downgrade the Ghanaian economy?
Good point, yeah.
So these are the issues.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Reuters, for bringing us the updates across Africa.
Thank you.
It's time now for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni join us to review top stories in today's newspapers. Stay with us.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Set to take the African continent and the world by storm. They are giants in every sense of the word, and they will bring entertainment that's just as big. Don't miss the first ever season of Big Brother Titans with two African giants, Niger and Nsamse, under Biggie's roof together. Big Brother Titans starts on Sunday, 15th of January on DSTV 198, GoTV 29, and Africa Magic. Headline sponsor, Bamboo, Flutterwave, and Lotto Star.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Great Malabite.
Good morning, Ruben.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Good morning,
back.
Good morning, Ayo.
Efeni, great to see you.
Yes.
How was worried?
Well, Ruben, a lot of people over there, they're saying they have a fan club, the Morning Show fan club. They've been asking of Ruben and everybody. Truckload of salutation, support, and solidarity for you.
How was Warri? How was your trip?
Cool.
Bless you, sir.
You know what I went there for?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, we start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, Naira redesign, why Nigeria's two critical institutions must make peace. Court stops Emefiele's arrest, declare Buhari's authority required to arrest CBN governor. Frowns at use of court to cover for irregular procedure, which is unacceptable in the words of the court. DSS talks tough. Top politicians, lawmakers, governors fingered in plot. Yes, the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Director of State Security, two institutions that should be working towards the common good of the country. But the DSS was in court, trying to get court permits, as it were, to arrest the Central Bank governor. But according to this day report, elder statesmen are already wading into the issue, because since the Central Bank announced the redesign of the Naira, the DSS have said to be overbearing, wanting to know every move concerning the minting, the printing of the redesigned Naira. But it has gotten to a situation where this DSS approached the court trying to arrest the Central Bank governor over issues of funding of terrorism. The president, who is the boss of Emefiele, and also the boss, the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces, the boss of the DSS, perhaps will have to wade into this matter because, as the court rightly declared, you cannot arrest the Central Bank governor without the authority of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, the Guardian newspaper, electricity, APC failed on 40,000 megawatts promise, rations 4,000 megawatts. Stakeholders insist Buhari failed in sector despite 1.6 billion intervention, $3 billion loans. Nigerians paying for darkness, says Okupe Amadi. Sector worst in last 7 years. Yes, the state of the Nigerian electricity is said to be worse off than it was in 2015 as we speak. And of course, industries are feeling the pinch because they have to, of course, generate their own electricity. With the diesel price sky high, we know the impact on industries. Now, if we look at other newspapers quickly, now the Business Day newspaper, the lead story, mixed expectations for Santa rally as stocks rebound. But my story of interest just beside the lead story, Atiku plans to end petrol subsidy in first 100 days. Yes, somebody is speaking to this issue of fuel subsidy, which we all agree, especially here on Arise, that should go. Because the trillions squandered in the name of fuel subsidy can do so much for this country in education, in health. I traveled over the weekend, Ruben and Rufai, and from Ogun State to Delta State, there were no queues. The independent marketers were selling fuel between 245. Yes, I did.
You couldn't.
No, I don't have to fly. We enjoy traveling by road, Ruben. We still travel by road in this country. If you've been scared out of traveling by road, that is not my problem. I still travel by road. I do, even though I can fly into Subi Airport just beside my village, Ruben. Now, I travel by road. Now, petrol is being sold between 245 and 260 from Ogun State to Ondo State to Edo State to Delta State, from Warri to Ugele. I did not get to Isoko land, Ayo. But what am I saying? People were buying, no problem, nobody protesting. You just buy and go. So it tells you that, indeed, if we do the appropriate pricing and remove this subsidy, we won't be having some of this problem. Where do you get petrol for 170 naira per liter? Ikoyi. Where the likes of Ruben can fill their jeep. Other big men, they fill their jeep. But in the rural areas where the poor people live, we are buying for 260 naira per liter. So I'm on with Atiku, who has said in the first 100 days, if he's elected Nigerian president, he will end subsidy. I want to hear from other presidential candidates on what they will do concerning fuel subsidy and how soon they will do it. Unlike the current president, who has been kicking the can down the road, and he has kicked the can to the next administration, not a way to lead the people. Because you have to be bold and take bold decisions, especially when it is in greater interest of the country and the people. Now, the Nation newspaper, workers to get better deal. Tinubu assures NLC, TUC. Yes, ex-Lagos governor presents plans to union leaders. Labour gives APC candidate charter of demand. Yes, good to see Tinubu in his well-choreographed town hall with Labour. Yes, because the last time I heard him mention Labour was the Labour Party when he went to campaign in Osun State, telling Labour they will Labour till they die. Now at least he knows that there's dignity in Labour, and he's talking to Labour, making promises, and they have given him charter of demands. The how he will deal with this, of course, left to be seen, but it's good that the presidential candidate of the APC is talking to Labour. Now, the Punch newspaper, rising attacks, vote buying, threatened polls, INEC cries out. Now, this has been on for quite some time, the attack on INEC. For how long can this continue before it will affect the preparation for the 2023 general elections? The security agencies must rise up to the occasion, but INEC crying out, and I can understand why they are doing so. Now, the Daily Sun newspaper, anger, anxiety over new Naira note, frustrated by scarcity of redesigned currency, Nigerians cry out. Governors meet Buhari this week to seek review of withdrawal. Hawkers have field day selling new currency in parties. Yes, that's another surprise. How these hawkers get the new currency, whereas some of us are yet to even feel or see the new currency physically. Now, also, the front page of Daily Sun 2023, APC leaders, ministers beg Nigerians. Of course, a lot of failure based on the promises made by the APC in 2014 ahead of the general election in 2015. A lot of those promises not met. Yet the APC, of course, is seeking power again. But Nigerians are taking note, but APC leaders are begging. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper, the lead story, another failure. Scores of bandits, 13 soldiers killed in Zamfara, Bauchi clashes, dozens of Zamfara villagers killed in airstrike, crossfire, 3 military vehicles burnt. NAF, Nigerian Air Force, confirms dual mom on collateral damage. Gunmen killed 28, burnt houses in southern Kaduna attack. Yes, insecurity still widespread. Bandits, terrorists still having a field day. So it is not enough for the president of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, to say, oh, when we came into power in 2015, X number of local governments in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe were inhabited or occupied by terrorists. What is happening now across the country in many parts of the northern states? Still huge insecurity. Of course, also on the front page of the Daily Trust, Ambassador Shehu Malameyes, Prince of the Sokoto Caliphate, passed away, and Buhari mourns his passage. Now, the foreign newspapers quickly, the Guardian newspaper, union leader, implore ministers to talk amid fears of patient harm. Now, hospitals say illnesses and injury victims will need to get themselves to the accident and emergency ward, as thousands of ambulance workers in England and Wales will be embarking on strike. Well, the Wall Street Journal is reporting January 8 panel refers Trump for charges. Investigation finds former president engaged in conspiracy, incited insurrection. Yes, that recommendation to the Department of Justice to charge Donald Trump, former president of the U.S., to court, of course, for disseminating false information of fraud related to the 2020 election, as well as provoking his supporters to violence and stirring up violent attempt to block the transfer of power. Will the Department of Justice do the needful? Ruben Rufai and Ayo.
The DOJ should take off Trump on that. And this is just coming on the heels of his ambition. Anyway, he's doing very poorly in the polls. Ron DeSantis is actually doing what the Americans will call a shellacking on Trump. He's beating in the polls, I think, by over double digits and the like. So his political career is far from over. So the Democrats that think his political career is toast, I'm not sure they know what they're talking about. But he must be able to account, for the insurrection he oversaw on democracy. How can a president, because he lost an election, try to destroy democracy in his country? That was a show of shame. That was akin to what, in fact, for the first time, I would say African leaders even have more dignity than Donald Trump. True. Because an African leader will not be that stupid to do such a dastardly act against his own nation. That was the height of madness. And that was a new low for America. And America should deal with that, But also, we saw the best part of democracy. We saw how his own vice president kicked against him that day, because his vice president could have been killed that day. We saw how people and the entire nation rallied around and said, not in our country. And I think we should all stand up for democracy in our country. For the very first time, I say African leader has the better decency than an American president that calls themselves the bastion of democracy. So I'm happy that the DOJ is on this, and I'm happy that they're going to go fast at this, how quickly they can nail him, and such a thing should never happen in America again. And also, we must take learnings here. Elections are coming. If you dispute elections, please go to the courts. Do not incite your followers to violence and destruction. We remember, we have not forgotten in the past, where some people said blood will flow.
The blood of the baboon.
Blood of baboons and donkeys. We should never forget that we had such an incident in this country where some people uttered statements like that because they didn't win elections.
But we also remember that Goodluck Jonathan.
And we also remember how some people also did say that my candidacy and my emergence is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. So we've seen highs in this country and we've seen lows.
Well,
so please, let's make it
two foreign stories, FNM. The first has to do with the NHS meltdown, with the Royal College of Nurses going on strike for the first time in the history of that institution. And the nurses are not alone. Paramedics are also staging walkouts. Border officials are staging walkouts, and flights have been disrupted. This is bound to be a very, really, really cold Christmas in England. But the more telling part of it is that with the nurses staging walkout, persons who have life-threatening issues, heart attack, stroke, they can't even have access to ambulances because the ambulance workers have, are on strike.
Yeah.
When you call people in the UK, you just call them. that, look, even Pat Collins, or one of the nurses, he said, we just hope that during this Christmas period, nobody will fall sick, nobody will need any emergency services. And yet, in spite of this, the government in England is saying, look, the demands are unreasonable, we're not going to talk. We're just offering you this percentage. Take it or leave it. Wage indexation is not the way to address the challenge of inflation. So it happens elsewhere too. And I just hope that this will not result in the deaths of people. That's one big news there. The second news that I think is also of interest is the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mark Rutte, apologizing yesterday for slavery, for Netherlands' involvement in slavery, particularly in the Dutch Guyana up till about 1836 or thereabouts. From the 16th century to the 19th century, the Netherlands had colonies used in Africa, and also took people from Africa to the Dutch Guyana to work in plantations. And now we have the Prime Minister, following an advisory and saying this was a crime against humanity. However, in parts of Dutch Guyana, particularly in Suriname, the people are saying no, they don't want this apology. There are commentators who are calling for reparation.
Yes.
Which is something, that is very familiar with us here.
Yes.
That there have been calls for reparation.
The late MP Abiola championed reparation.
The important thing to note, of course, is that, look, slavery of any form is a crime against humanity, as Mark Rutte has said. The Suriname people, they're saying that they expect the king in July next year, when it is the 60th anniversary, 160th anniversary of the abandonment of slavery by Netherlands, to make an apology. That is the apology they want. But others are asking for reparation. And it is unfortunate that even in the 21st century, we still get reports of cases of slavery in parts of the world.
Absolutely. On foreign scene, winter of discontent, as we've talked about it a number of times with the strikes going on. Just trying to speak to a few people in the health, in the NHS, particularly nurses and doctors, and just the impact of this. Side by side, we had a number of people come out to say that don't forget the reason, the sanctity of the work that you do, and that the primary reason is to save lives and properties. But my apologies. But put that side by side, but also for the welfare of the nurses as well and medical practitioners. For how long will they continue to put above their own personal security of lives in terms of their earnings to the lives of people? It's quite unfortunate that the UK government hasn't come to an agreement with the nurses, paramedics and health workers. Quite unfortunate. And like Dr. Bati said, it's just looking at ensuring that we do not have a number of loss of lives or a report of loss of lives as a result of these strikes. Importantly, winter months are cold. We have more senior citizens going into hospitals, more emergency cases. So this could not be a worse timing when it has to do with strikes. Very unfortunate. And then back here, just going to the story on vote buying and the INEC story made some front pages. Again and again, and just yesterday we had a chat with the former commissioner in Akwa Ibom, where he was talking about the preparedness of INEC towards the 2023 election. This has come up in news, in conversation a number of times. With INEC, we're showing Nigerians that they are ready for the elections in 2023, despite the attacks on their facilities. Since 2019 to today, they've had 50 incidents across 15 states in the country. It is important to note that they have talked again and again about their own role and the role of security agencies. In fact, we spoke about this yesterday and talked about the fact that there has been no prosecution, at least to the knowledge of the public, made on the incessant attacks across INEC offices in Nigeria. It is unfortunate, and I believe that security agencies have a case to answer. Also, part of that report talks about the military coming out to say that they would take on, enforce democracy. And we talked about the militarization of elections in Nigeria, and that election is not war. We should come to a point in our nation's democracy whereby we are not deploying military officials. I mean, even though there's a provision in the Constitution for that, to ensure ensure peace and order or law and order during elections. It is quite unfortunate. I believe the NSA and security agencies have a case to answer and that we must hear it now. We don't want a postponement of elections. We don't want loss of lives or further properties leading up to the elections. But the INEC chairman has said that if this continues in January and February, they might not have no choice but to postpone elections, and that will be very unfortunate.
Well, thank you very much, Amara Lufeni. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Ledu Miti, former president, Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles, as long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select Loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
Patricia, crypto made easy.
Hello, Lagos. Let's talk. I can't even ask you how you're doing. We're all here. We all know the truth. We're not doing too well. Every time we think we have seen the worst, somehow, the ones we handed our dear state will always find a way to outdo themselves in how bad things can get. For 23 years, they have rewarded the love of the people with so little. We are the wealthiest state in Nigeria, but let me ask you, Lagos, how wealthy do you really feel? Can you imagine another 4 years of no real solution to waking up at 4 a.m. every day because of that awful traffic across Lagos metropolis? Or 4 more years of being scared to stop at the traffic lights because of traffic robbers? I don't think we can continue with another 4 years of 2 million of our children still out of school.
Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando as Governor of Lagos State. PDP, power to the people.
Chivita season, oh, oh, oh. Feel this Christmas, oh, oh, oh. Let's celebrate with Chivita.
Everyone has a Chivita this season. What's your Chivita?
A reflection of the Nigerian never say die spirit. They never stay down. You're always thinking of how to improve. You're always thinking of how to move forward. My name is Emmanuel Ahimieho. I've been a civil engineer for 18 years. I'm the project manager of Obajana Kaba Road. The Obajana Kaba Road is 43 kilometers built completely of concrete pavement. We started work on December 2016. I remember when we came here, it was virtually lifeless. We're building a road that we know will need very minimal maintenance. It's a road that we don't need to rush back to in 5 years, trying to carry out major maintenance work. We don't need to import anything that we need on the road. They are all locally available materials. All the cement we use on this road is from Dangote Cement Factory, which is the largest cement factory in Africa. The sand is from the communities, so people from the community, they end up becoming suppliers. Imagine supplying sand for a 43-kilometer road. It's a lot of money. There are things I've learned from building this concrete road that I never knew 10 years ago. And to be able to lead those people to achieve something worthwhile, something that is of value to them, to the community, to people who have never met us. And I am positive that the road will outlast most of the people who are building the road. Along this route, you have up to 12 communities. People have the confidence to open shops. Why? Because, you know, someone is going through the road, they sell their things, they sell their goods. That is more money for them. We have a number of eateries now, and you want to buy food along the road, you get fresh food, not food that are preserved. No, you get fresh food. So it is good for us, and it's good for the community too. The road is a lot more safer now for everybody, including Halima, including other travelers. So they have better roads, lesser crime, shorter journey times, so a lot of advantages. I've had people who go through the roads and they stop to just say, well done. We are proud of what is happening here. We're happy that this is going on in Nigeria in our time. We can see it. They are proud of it. I think it has brought life back to the communities. I feel very proud, extremely proud being a part of this project.
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money o.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
New Naira notes? Don't panic. Here's what you need to know. Ensure to make deposits of all old banknotes before January 31, 2023. To make the process seamless for you, all Fidelity Bank branches will be open till 6 p.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays to allow for cash deposits only. Also, please note that bank charges on all cash deposits have been suspended by the CBN. However, charges shall still be applied on cash withdrawals. The new banknotes can be accessed at any Fidelity Bank branch nationwide from December 15, 2022. Old banknotes will remain in circulation till January 31, 2023, when they will cease to be legal tender, as directed by the CBN. For more inquiries, follow us on our social media channels or email us at true.serve@fidelitybank.ng. You can also call 0700 3035 489 or reach us on WhatsApp on 090 3000 5252. Thank you for banking with us.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband buy.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Doctor, is the people they say. Tinubu Kainchara. Doctor, where's your Yoruba they say. Tinubu Lafero. Sound, the people they shout. Tinubu we want. Even from North Hausa they say. Tinubu we can so.
All our country people, they talk with one voice. Them say, na Asiwaju Bola Tinubu them want as president of Nigeria for this president election.
Asiwaju Bola Tinubu na the man where we all know and see all the good work in they do for we country, especially when he be governor of Lagos State.
Now him God use turn Lagos to the best state for Nigeria.
Today, many people all over Nigeria, they like to go Lagos, go settle down for business and better life.
All because of the good work when Bola Tinubu do.
People of Nigeria, as Asiwaju do for Lagos, now so him ready to do am for the whole country.
Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party we get a broom.
We want
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. After a series of crises which delayed the composition of a substantive board for the Niger Delta Development Commission, President Muhammadu Buhari on November 23rd asked the Senate to confirm the appointment of his special assistant on new media, Loretta Ifeanyi Onoche, as the chairman of the reconstituted board of the commission. Buhari's letter was read at plenary by the Senate President, Dr. Ahmed Lawan. The list also included 14 others as managing director, executive directors, and members of the board. Lawan said the president appointed Ifeanyi Onoche from Delta State as the chairman, representing the South-South geopolitical zone on the board. He also appointed Chief Samuel Ogboku from Bayelsa State as the managing director, who would serve for 2 years in order to complete the term of his predecessor. The first protest against the list was from the Deputy President of the Senate, Senator Ovie Omoagege, who pointed that Delta State was not fully represented on the board of the NDDC as read at plenary. He explained that the NDDC Act stipulates that there should be another nominee from any state that produces the chairman. Also, a federal high court in Abuja also stopped the National Assembly from screening and confirming Ms. Loretta Onoche and Chief Samuel Ogboku. It ordered that all actions on the matter be suspended pending the determination of the suit filed by Chief Edward Ekpoko Esquire, Engineer Victor Wood, and Mr. Edward Omagbemi on behalf of the Ishakiri ethnic nationality, challenging the nomination of the duo. Joining us on the show this morning to discuss the NDDC nomination list by President Buhari is Ledum Miti, former president, Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP. Welcome to the morning show.
Morning.
You're welcome. Good morning. All right.
Okay, Mr. Miti, why do you think there's so much emphasis on this NDDC board? In 2021, it was the same problem. Since then, there's been no focus on the purpose of that commission itself. What we see is this perpetual wrangling over who should be chairman, who should not be a chairman, who should not be a member. This time around, we have an interesting situation whereby in Delta State, there are persons who are saying that the proposed chairman, Loretta Onoche, is not from an oil-bearing community. There is also a similar situation with regard to Mr. Charles Ogumola. Mr. Charles Ogumola is a nominee from Ondo State. And all three Ondo senators in the National Assembly are also saying, no, he's from Owo. They don't have oil in Owo. Only someone from Ilaje can be a member of the NDDC board to represent Ondo State. This definition of oil-bearing community, why is it also so elastic? Although I know they are quoting Section 112 of the NDDC Act. What's your take on all of this, confusion?
Well, Dr. Batsi, the issue of NDDC, it is the purpose for which NDDC appear to have been working that is causing the controversy. NDDC have been doing a fantastically good job in not developing the Niger Delta that it's supposed to do. And it has been more or less the ATM of every ruling party, especially during election period. So what you are saying is that instead of the board or instead of NDDC becoming an interventionist agency that can help to intervene in the development of the region, it has been more of a patronage machine. So what you are saying, they are hustling for positions not to develop, but for the purposes of the party that sent them. Let's start from the beginning. Now, since this administration came in, I think there was only one time that we had something like a board. The administration had been more interested in having interim boards and even sole administrators for an outfit that is spending billions of naira in contravention of the act setting it up. My view, and I've consistently said this, that all those contraptions called interim management board, whether it is a sole administrator, are all illegal. And at some time, they might be called to account for whatever money that they spent because it's against the law. Happily, there's no limitation about crime. So whether it's 20 years or 50 years after now, they will be called to account. Why is the government now interested in reconstituting the board just on the eve of an election or at the twilight of their own administration? Those are the questions we should ask. There have been an earlier board nomination for an earlier board that were screened. The members were screened, but not inaugurated. What we had then was, because of the issues of corruption that we have seen even on national TV, that there are going to be a forensic audit. And as soon as that forensic audit is submitted, that is the words of the president, there will be another board. That forensic audit had been completed more than over a year ago. We didn't hear of anything about constituting of a board. So my take is that the whole idea of a board is, these are all politics, and it is all about trying to see who is going to play what role, including getting funds for the party during these elections. Otherwise, why all this problem? Coming to the issues of who constitutes a board, if you look at the law setting up that outfit, it envisaged that, like, the position, the management of the board should be constituted mainly by the members of that board should be maybe professionals, especially the MD. But now what we've been seeing are politicians, those who have been around, politically exposed persons. So instead of the board delivering on its mandate what we hear is that it has been delivering basically the patronage to party members. And I think that is the problem. It's the bane of the Niger Delta. Those who live in the Niger Delta cannot say that they can point to something substantial or anything you can point to. I don't know what has happened now since this administration, at least, that you can say this is what the NDDC has delivered on. 90 has published several reports, the fiscal allocation and statutory disbursement audit, that clearly stated that several of the contracts of NDDC did not exist, but money had been expended. There was the House hearing on NDDC that was a national disgrace. Nobody has been punished as a result of that. So for me, all this that is happening is also, one, to show the disdain for due process, and also the fact that there's no interest in the development of the Niger Delta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miti. Just going back to your statement around the fact that the NDDC hasn't achieved much under the President Muhammadu Buhari administration. Some would beg to differ. I'll just take a few points that have been mentioned as some of his successes under, with the NDCC under his administration. He's talked about the construction of 1,874 kilometers of roads, the completion of 44 electrification projects, the provision of 162 potable water facilities, and some of these are the president's achievements. I'd like you to speak to that, bearing in mind your statement that there has been no gains under this administration. And then also going back to the appointment of Mrs. Loretta Ifeanyi-Onoche as the chairman of the NDDC board. What the president has said is there was a clamor for set up a board, put up an administrative system that's working. He's responded to the clamor of the people, reinstated the board, taking their names to the House, and now again the complaint is that this person is not from an oil-producing state. We don't want this person. We don't want this person. The question is, perhaps I should ask you, what do the people want? How can the president better serve Niger Deltas through the NDDC?
Well, speaking to the projects, I'm sometimes amused. I hear of 1,000 kilometers of roads. I hear of water projects. Where are those roads? Where are the water projects? And are they working now? We have seen commissioning of water projects that just last for those hours of the commissioning. Where are they? What is the sustainability? How do you give water to people, maybe a rural community? You sink a borehole. You sink a borehole that will be powered by maybe a generator that the community cannot even buy the diesel to power. Then the thing is, sometimes they even hire a generator for the day of that. I am not impressed when someone comes to tell me we have spent billions on road, we have spent hundreds of millions on water projects. Tell me where they are, and we can go there. Some years ago, when I was president of Mosul, we led a survey of what the projects that they claim against what we saw on the ground. And there's a wide gap. As I said, these are things that there are several reports, several non-governmental organizations have spoken to all this. When the people see the projects, you will know the people themselves will become your mouthpiece, not what you go and picture and show on this. Now, let's come to what do the people want? What the people want is that they want something that will atone for the environmental degradation caused by oil exploitation. They want that their livelihood that has been devastated, something for it. And how do we do that? And that was the whole idea why some of us canvassed for this sort of outfit. I was one of those who made representations that led to the formation of UMPADEC. With that one is now history, which metamorphosed into the NDDC. And from its conception, you see that NDDC was not doing what it's supposed to do. Because even the law itself, when instead of saying this outfit should develop those areas, they say that they should in fact, the key words under Section 7.3 is that they must, in carrying out this function, they must be subject to the control, direction, and supervision of the president. So you made an outfit that was subordinated to what the president or the presidency decided. And that is what has been there. So instead of the people, in contradiction to this, it was the administration of Abdul Salami Abubakar that made a law that was for the unpadded decree under him, said that they were charged with the responsibility of developing the Niger Delta, the oil producing communities, according to the priorities set by those communities. That is what people want. They have their priorities. They know what they want. They know what should be development. And we are not reaching them. They are scratching where sometimes it's not it. So these are the problems. So what the people want and what those people think they can have as some political billboards do not align most of the times. Okay. When it comes to the appointment of persons, I think that they should be sensitive to the yearnings of those who are actually from those communities. I'm one of those who will always align with that sort of view.
I understand we'll have to go to a break. Okay, Doctor, take over that.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, the conversation with Lady Umiti will continue. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Papa, mama, brother, sister, this Lagos must work for all of us. Everybody down Fueko.
Oh yes, Lagos people, papa, mama, sister, brother, auntie, plus including uncle them. Better don't land for Lagos State gidigba. Money will be for Lagos State, then go use them for Lagos State. Wella, no more baba sope. They no go chop Lagos State money. Nobody go pocket Lagos State. Then go take and build Lagos State, build road, build hospital, build houses, and now only one man fit do this job. His name na Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando. He can't carry one obonge person as a deputy governor. Her name na Funke Akindele Jennifer. My people, what do we wait for? Make we vote for light, vote for change. No be the kind change where they vote before. This one na the original change. How Amumu don't do? Pay they pay.
Everybody down Fueko.
The Zenith Better Life promo is back, and it's bigger and better. You could be one of 20 lucky customers to win 150,000 naira every 2 weeks from now till January 31st, 2023. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account and maintain a minimum balance of 5,000 naira. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Me and my guys see enter road. They flexing my brand new moto. My baby said she win the hobo. Festival of Joy Globe promo. And my fans get fans with them still we will still. Even if light or fan, we go still go. Hey, wait. Now they don't carry lights. We the region. Someone like go still show. It's the festival of Joy Globe promo. Fashion killer, dress code bigger. Win so we machine for the Glow Festival. My guys just they win left, right, and center. That's the 611 hash to enter. Festival of joy. Oh yeah. Festival. That's the 611 hash to win and enjoy. Festival of joy. Oh yeah. Festival. That's the 611 hash to enter.
Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Our guest is still Lejo Mite, former president of the Movement for the Survival of the Ogoni People. Thank you very much, Mr. Mite, for staying with us. Rufai, you were engaging him before to that break.
Okay, Dr. Abati, thank you so much. Two things. Number one will be, it's not only about Loretta Onoche. There's another case raging now in Ondo State as regards Ilaje and somebody from Owo. What's your take on that? Because we've seen a pattern that people that are not from the oil-bearing or producing communities are getting the top jobs at NDDC. Secondly, I'd like to talk to you about various chapters in this NDDC debacle. It looks as though Nigerians have selective amnesia, and quickly we've forgotten the days of Professor Ponde and the fainting spell. Nothing has happened since then. What ended the case was off your mic, off your mic. How long are we going to off our mics for? Those are my two questions, sir.
Well, thank you, Rufai, on this matter. The issue of the reason why communities from the oil-producing areas insist on their own, that their people should constitute the board, is because once, from what people have seen, those who constitute the board, when it comes to contracts, it comes to even accessibility, those who are directly affected by oil exploitation, most of them from those areas are not as politically exposed as those from other areas. And so those people dish out because of the patronage mechanism that this board or that NDDC has become. They do not look at those who are actually producing oil. So they face some other areas. And if this agency was supposed to deal with the issue of oil exploitation and the development in those areas, then the people have some legitimate right to ask that at least even the sense of inclusion should be able to respond to the fact that they come from those areas. I feel that most times those people have been ignored, and even in terms of what you call, if they say the projects, you do not see in those areas that should be the prime beneficiary of those areas. So there is something out there that we should speak to. Coming to the bigger issue, which you have said, it is because of the level of corruption in NDDC that is making people jostle for those positions. I can tell you some of personal experiences I have had. And it's so, and the first was that I went to see some member who was a chairman of NDDC. And I tried to make a case about what I thought this NDDC should do. And he looked at me and said, look, Ledu, I was sent here to empower the president's supporters in the Niger Delta. If you have someone that meets that criteria, please let me know. And I just I left. That was the end of the conversation. So all through, what we have seen is that the outfit has just been to empower the presidency's supporters in the Niger Delta. It has been to fund elections. And I have seen cases where people had been even arrested. I can tell you a particular case where someone came to me and said, look, I am being arrested. I want you to defend me. And I say, what is going on? I'm arrested because of some money that passed through my desk. That money was supposed to be for an election. And that is how it went. So someone wrote a petition that we did not use the money for the projects that we said we did. And the EFCC picked him up. And by the time they took him to Abuja, he was there when the EFCC chairman called him and said, who is that person from NDDC? He said, myself. He said, go to Port Harcourt and get your bail. And he flew back because he has told the politicians who actually were the real beneficiaries of that money. By the time he got to Port Harcourt, they asked him to sign his bail bond on personal recognition. And by the time he finished, he felt this was too good to be true, and he put hand in his pocket and gave the officials about 100,000 that was in his pocket for recharge card. And the officials now said they should arrest him for trying to bribe a public officer. After you have given big money in Abuja, you come here and give us 100,000. And they threatened to take him to court. But a phone call, again, that was the end of the case. So it is mind-boggling when you know what happens in that outfit called NDDC. And the fact that there was a forensic audit that no one is hearing about, even before the forensic audit, as I said, 90 had issued several reports saying that several projects do not exist. As you rightly stated, during that hearing in the National Assembly, we were all shocked how much they said they spent for international travel during the time that the whole world was locked down. No international travels anywhere. But all that had gone. No one is talking about it. It's like that is the end of the situation. If we do not deal with the issue of impunity, if we don't deal with the issue of accountability, if we do not think that these are public money and that some people's lives are being wasted each day because of what people are stealing, then we are just on the precipice waiting for the fall. And I think that this government came in, one of their strongest points, while several people voted, was that we'll handle issue of corruption. And to now have in the hands of the president a forensic report that, at least by press accounts, indicted several persons about what has happened, it will become, it is the saddest thing that can happen to that. And that's why some of us are amused when the people talk about anti-corruption in this area. Because I have consistently said, it is not the laws that are in the books. It is the implementation of the laws that are important. No one knows that in the ICPC Act, that we have provisions that of independent investigators, just like we have in the US, so that even someone who says, I'm a governor today or I'm a president today, we have that same provision that that person can be investigated by independent investigators. And that the charge, the immunity you have, will now, they might not take you to court while you are still enjoying that, but they can prosecute you when you leave office. How many persons have ICPC appointed as independent investigators? We've seen that happen in the US and several other people. We have that in the books. But what have we done? It is what you do with the laws that we have in your books that makes the difference. If you go to a country where the law says, thou shalt not steal, and every person is stealing, it means that that country's law actually says steal. But if you go to a country that if 10 people steal, the likelihood is that at least 7 of them will go to jail. Then the law says every person will know that that place, they do not tolerate stealing. and people will behave. That's what we are seeing. And it's a sad thing that these are some of the things some of us put our lives on the line for. Campaigning that the lives of our people have been degraded. Our lives of the means of livelihood had completely been devastated as a result of bad practices in oil exploitation. Today, we are seeing that the situation is getting worse. The money that is supposed to be used are used for some other things. I mean, look at what you show in the screen. Look at the edifice. Why do you need all that sort of edifice as an office? How many people have houses? There are communities in the Niger Delta that they don't even, they have not seen a car in their lives. They've not seen anything. And they are looking for water, even water to drink. They cannot have it. But yet, you see how much is being spent through this outfit called NDDC. And to now come to the issue of the board, why is it that even the first line of trying to bring some sanity, which is the board that should oversee, why is it not happening? We have the board of the Northeast Development Commission. It has always existed. There is no interim administration there. There is no time that they have said a sole administrator should be there. It's working. And yet, when it comes to the Niger Delta, that is what we will see. You now have an NDDC, you have a Niger Delta ministry that no one knows exactly what they are doing. It's a shame, and it pains me to my heart that I have been one of those who campaign for what is going on. I mean, for the outfit to be created.
Okay, well, you campaign for the outfit to be created, but we've seen over the years how there's so much crisis, there's so much internal fighting, even among the people that the same commission is supposed to serve. Will you recommend, so that there will be peace, that the NDDC should be scrapped and people can go and find other means of patronage and livelihood? Will you agree to that?
Well, I would not say the NDDC should be scrapped, but as it is now, that one is not serving any purpose. We need to get maybe an NDDC or whatever name that will be focused on the development of the areas according to the priorities set by those communities, and does not take rocket science to achieve that. As I said, Abdul Salami's law created that outfit. That we can also do away with the whole of the bureaucracy, or at least a sizable part of it, and create a fund that people can access, professionals can access. So people will say, this is what we need for this period. And there'll be a needs assessment. And it will be from community to community. What is development in one community might not be the same. And they assess the funds, and they're monitored by professionals, and that can work. You don't need most of these large patronage staff that you have all over the place. I don't know whether any person has asked them how many staff they have in that place and how much do they get. They are paid at the rate of the oil companies, which means they are not producing, but they are earning as much as someone who is producing oil. So what is it that it does? And you have to deal with people who are living far, far below the poverty line. And then you are getting almost all the things. Let's ask, why is it that almost all the people who are there go to contest election? One good thing about when President Jonathan was there, one thing he insisted was that in appointment of people there, it should not be those who are likely to have political ambitions soon. So that at least some idea will have this in, although politicians will also intervene in it. But I believe that it has been too much politicized to the extent that it is of no more use to the people as presently constituted. We can do better than this, and we can do something that will make some difference in the lives of the people.
All right, thank you, Mr. Miti. Just to confirm, you mentioned was under the Abdulsalami government, was actually created on the 5th of June 2000 under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration, that's the NDDC. Now, talking about the NDDC, and it's been scrapped as Dr. Bati had asked, I'd like to ask a further question to that. Now, in your submission, you're not of the opinion, at least you haven't said it, that the NDDC should be scrapped. You're just saying that it should be fit for purpose. So the reason why for the development of the oil-producing areas, particularly the Niger Delta, if there were to be a reconstitution, as some agitators have said, scrapping is not even on the table. Let's not even have that conversation yet. However, there's still cases of corruption, and the money intended for the people, as you have even said in the course of this interview, hasn't reached the people of the Niger Delta. They're still languishing in poverty. They're still underdeveloped areas. So 20 years after it was set up, there hasn't been measurable improvements, at least considerable improvements to the lives of the Niger Delta people. How else should this be administered? Be administered? Because it's the same. It's the Niger Delta people who make up the commission. It's the people so it's not the president now. It's those who have been given the responsibility to administer and to ensure that the people are looked after, that are the perpetuators of the corruption. So how else should NDDC run that would make it more efficient for the people?
Well, let me say, when I said Abdulsalami Abubakar, under his tenure, there was an Umpadek decree of 1998, which clearly provided that the outfit should be responsible for the development of the oil-producing communities according to the priorities set by those communities. Clearly, that is what it said. It didn't say that the outfit should be under the control, direction, and supervision of the president. That's the difference. So when we take I'm not one of those who will give an excuse to a president that, look, it's the people he set there. The buck stops somewhere, and we know where that is. And again, the law setting up the NDDC clearly stated, Section 7.3 says that in carrying out its functions, they will be under the control, direction, and supervision of the president. So anything that happens there, I am right to assume that it was under the control, direction, and supervision of the president. So I'm not excusing him from this. So let us be very clear. But coming to what I think should be the outfit. Now, I headed the Niger Delta Technical Committee, which was a committee set up by President Yar'Adua about what do we do to deal with this Niger Delta crisis then. We submitted a report. That report has been hailed as one report that, if implemented, stands a chance of dealing with the issues of the Niger Delta. And we dealt with what role should NDDC play vis-a-vis the Niger Delta Ministry. And we thought that to be an intervention agency, what you need for an NDDC is that we must be able to say that they are going to be responsible for the development of the communities according to priorities set by those communities. And you can create an outfit that is not bogged down by so much bureaucracy, that what it does is that it's like a fund that is being administered. So communities will go by application every year. This is what we think. And then there'll be a needs assessment. And those things will now be funded. They draw from that fund. So you don't need so much of happening. Let me say again that when we started, you see there was OMPADEC, Oil Mineral Producing Communities Development Commission. Now, that one did not pretend to what it wanted to do. It was for the oil-producing communities. Now, when Obasanjo came, there was the issue in the Niger Delta. And he tried, therefore, to pamper to international pressure, in my view, and created an outfit. Instead of doing the UNPADEC, you now call it Niger Delta Development Commission. By the definition of Niger Delta in the law, anywhere that oil is produced automatically became Niger Delta. So as you see now, Bauchi will soon be Niger Delta. So, and that is not the issue. The Niger Delta has its own peculiar problems, which started even before independence. The issues were that the terrain were such that you required some affirmative action in order to bring it to par with the rest of the country. And that those in the hinterland do not understand these peculiarities, because there are areas that you need to even build land before you can build road, or because you can do that. These were the peculiar problems of the Niger Delta. Now, oil now found itself inside there, and then with its own peculiar problems. So what you see in the situation now is that it's like someone has malaria, he now has typhoid. Then you decide to be treating only the situation of malaria, leaving typhoid. So what we see is that there are two problems that are always treated as one. In fact, in this case, they are not even treating the malaria. They are treating it with some fake medicine that has no relationship, which is fraud. So no one has dealt with those issues of the Niger Delta. So it's like someone who is we are just dealing with the symptoms. So we have not even dealt with those issues. And we need that intervention that peculiarly deals with, one, those issues of development because of the terrain, the peculiar terrain of the area, and then the issues associated with oil. And these are things that you must look at. For instance, if there's a place where a woman has a farm that has been polluted and it cannot farm, if you give now roads in her local government, it does not deal with the needs of that woman. So you must look at those peculiar issues that needs to be addressed. Not to just go there and you go and build a police barracks in Port Harcourt and you say NDDC intervention. What has that got to do with the Niger Delta?
Okay, real quickly. This issue of the Niger Delta, and I would like to trace it back. The first time that the idea of a Niger Delta Commission was mentioned was in the '63 Constitution. Prior to that time, we had the Willinks report of the late 50s that talked about rights of the minorities. And recommendations were made based on the rights of the minorities. If the colonial government foresaw this problem then, is it not the problems that were enunciated in the Willinks report that is still happening today, that some groups feel bigger than others as regards resource in these areas? So if we've been dealing with this since '57, then where are we going? Because this is over. This even predates Nigeria as a country. Now, what is the future of the Niger Delta in the next 60 years?
Well, as you rightly said, the issues of the Niger Delta were one of the issues that Willinks Commission dealt with. One important recommendation of the Willinks Commission was that the peoples of the Niger Delta should not be suppressed to such extent that they will revolt and troops will be used to quell the rebellion, that it will threaten the stability of the country. That's what Willinks said. And some years ago, when I had the opportunity or the privilege of meeting Willinks, and he explained what he meant by all these things. And I will tell you that clearly that it was always known that we have these problems in the Niger Delta. But we are still at this situation where we are going back as if we want to reinvent the wheels. I think it is a very sad commentary on this government. Every government in the world is tested not by how much you are able to deal with the strong, but how you relate to those people who are downtrodden, like in those situations. As I said, I headed a technical committee on the Niger Delta. I still stand by most of the recommendations in that report, and I still believe that apart from those that need to be modified to present day, they still constitute a very good foundation to respond to the issues of the Niger Delta. And I believe that governments must be able to deal with it and align the needs of the people to what they are doing. Most times, we are going after elephant projects, and it is not what the people want. Those people have their own needs and their priorities. And that is what is happening. When you see the issues that threaten the stability of Great Britain, which was Northern Ireland, the Good Friday Agreement, yes, the Good Friday Agreement dealt with it in a manner that up till today, they are focused on it, and it has led to reasonable stability in that area. That's how governments do. That's how they respond to when there are issues. Not to think that all you need to do is that any person that can marshal more violence, you try to appease that person. So you create a new one.
Well, Mr. Meche, well, I mean, very tough subject, isn't it? Because as you speak,
absolutely,
people in Ondo State are protesting, some of them in support of Mr. Ogunmola. In Niger Delta, you also have Onoche's supporters. Both groups say if their persons are not on that board, there will be serious trouble. But in any case, we don't have enough time anymore. We need to go. Thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. It's time now for a short break. When we return, Ojinika Okupe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine your wallet can be everything. Well, almost everything your bank is to you. That's exactly what First Money Wallet is. First Money Wallet from First Bank is another swift and seamless way to bank from your mobile phone. It doesn't matter if you have a First Bank account or not, nor the mobile network you use. Everyone can open a First Money Wallet, and it's very easy. Your phone number is your account number. With First Money Wallet, you can send money using just a phone number, receive money, pay bills, buy airtime and data for yourself or someone else, and in check balance. You don't need a bank account at all or BVN to enjoy the boundless possibilities First Money Wallet offers. All you need is a registered phone number, and you can fund your wallet easily through your First Bank account or any bank account and debit card. What's more, First Money Wallet is highly secure with fingerprint technology and PIN. And when you need cash, just walk up to any First Money agent near you to withdraw money. No smartphone, no wahala. Just dial *894*1# on any phone. So it doesn't matter if you live in the city or the remotest part of the country. With First Money Wallet, your transactions are easy, seamless, and secure. Download the First Money Wallet app now. Input your phone number and follow the prompts, or simply dial *894*1#. All money now on First Money. You first. First Bank.
Patricia, crypto made easy.
As a player, there's nothing better than the roar of your crowd. But in Nigeria, there's a roar that may not be heard again. With fewer than 50 lions left, they could be extinct in the next few years. From loss of habitat and prey, and snares set for illegal bushmeat. So please, say no to illegal bushmeat. Let's keep the raw alive for Nigeria, because poaching steals from us all.
I've been running my business on my own, trying my best to get into the next level, but I really need some help to get ahead. I know just what to do, I'll vote it for my loans, overdraft, step by step to my dream business, we vote. Salary earners, entrepreneurs, get your loans with no collateral. Quick sign up, zero paperwork, step by step to your dream business, we vote. By Polaris Bank.
Vault is available to individuals, SMEs, and corporate customers. Download Vault by Polaris Bank from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to get started today.
Esther, you're late again. Esther?
She's a wandering light in the darkness. She's beautiful. Oh, she's a superstar.
Morning, Esther.
She never let her mama down. She's beautiful. She know the fear. She know they ever got a hand for her.
No phones at the table, please.
Oh.
Esther? I love you too.
Got everything?
Don't forget I'll pick you at 4.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Our country one better.
Nigeria one better.
Our country one better.
Nigeria one better.
Who go do one for us?
Tinubu,
Papa talk and move, Mama talk and move for a better Nigeria. Good life uncle. Now you we want to. Now you we need oh.
Yeah, so people of Nigeria, they jolly for the better we want shele for we country. So as they ready to vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as the next president of Nigeria, our people don't look the matter well. Say na only Bola Tinubu don't do wetin everybody fit see. Now him get the experience where he go fit use take make our country better, make life sweet for we and our pikin them. Bola Tinubu don't gather better plan to chase down war for we youth, better school, the security of lives and property, unity and peace for all we country people. People of Nigeria, for this and many other better things when in don't vocalize, it good make we all vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Vote Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC, the party where show broom.
Now you we need oh.
This is the heart of the business world in Lagos, the commercial capital of Africa's largest economy.
These aren't just numbers. They represent our nation's sharpest minds, our most successful investors, our most inspiring bosses. In Nigeria, business is in our DNA. From micro-business to startups to world-conquering brands. Every success story has something in common. They all started somewhere. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Global Business Report gets to the heart of business. We bring you the stories making headlines across the globe with in-depth analysis from experts and executives.
This is not business as usual. This is the Global Business Report.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Okupe with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx.
Good morning, Dr. Batty. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Fantastic. Good morning, Rufai. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I forgot my puppy. I'll get it tomorrow.
Good.
Well,
good,
all right.
Good.
Good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe. In the United Kingdom, the Bank of England on Monday unveiled the new look banknotes featuring the image of King Charles III. The portrait will be the only change of existing designs of 5, 10, 20 and 50 pound notes, which will go into circulation from mid-2024. The country's central bank says existing notes will still be accepted in shops after the new notes begin to circulate. Queen Elizabeth II was the first and only monarch to appear on circulating Bank of England notes, started in 1960. In the United States, former Hollywood film mogul Harvey Weinstein was found guilty on Monday by a Los Angeles jury of rape and 2 sexual assault charges involving an accuser known as Jane Doe 1 to protect her identity. The 70-year-old Oscar winner, who is already serving a 23-year jail term after he was convicted of rape and sexual assault at his first trial in New York, is now facing up to 24 years in prison. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa on Monday was re-elected leader of the governing African National Congress to wild cheers from his supporters, despite being dodged by allegations of money laundering and a last-minute surge in support of his rival, Zweli Makize, who has also been accused of corruption. The victory puts Ramaphosa in pole position to lead the ANC in the 2024 election.
And for Comrade Ramaphosa Cyril, his total is 2,476.
Under sports, Real Madrid striker Karim Benzema announced his retirement from international football on Monday, less than 24 hours after France's dramatic defeat to Argentina at the 2022 World Cup final in Qatar. The French international announced the decision on his 35th birthday, stating that he made the effort and the mistakes to be where he is today and is proud of it. Benzema made his international debut in 2007 for the Les Blues, scoring 37 goals from 97 appearances. He has won 23 trophies with Real Madrid, including 4 La Liga, 2 Copa del Rey, and 5 UEFA Champions League titles. Then, Argentina's World Cup winning captain, Lionel Messi, on Monday was named BBC World Sports Star of the Year for 2022. The 35-year-old led Argentina to their first World Cup triumph in 36 years in Qatar, adding football's biggest prize to a list of his trophies, which includes 7 Ballon d'Or titles, 4 Champions Leagues, 1 Copa America, 10 La Liga titles with Barcelona, and a Ligue 1 crown with Paris Saint-Germain, cementing himself as one of the greatest footballers of all time. Finally, under entertainment, Nigerian Afrobeat star Ahmed Ololade, who goes by the stage name Ashake, is having to deal with the death of another woman, 23-year-old Gabrielle Hutchinson, who died from injuries sustained during a stampede that broke out at a concert organized by the singer in the United Kingdom. The concert was held at the 4,900 capacity Brixton O2 Academy on December 15th. It was cancelled midway after a crowd of thousands breached the doors of the arena in the stampede. The incident left some of the concert goers seriously injured, with at least 8 of them hospitalized. The first victim, 33-year-old Rebecca Ikumelo, died on Saturday, December 17th.
This is so unfortunate, Rufai. There's a third victim fighting for their life right now in the hospital. I mean, I don't know, you cannot say you're going to blame the artist for this incident that occurred, because obviously, that place was swamped with a lot of people. And apparently the people that were injured or people that died were at the foyer of the academy.
So sad. I mean, it was supposed to be a very big night for Ashake, but it ended in a very sad way. He had to stop the show midway, and there was a lot of crowd problem, really. I think that's about one of the biggest crowd they've seen thus far at the O2 Academy. When that happened, people have died because of the stampede and all of that. The mayor of London said he was very saddened by the event. It's made national news on the whole of the UK. It is really very sad, and we just pray for the repose of the souls that have been lost. But please, going forward, crowd control is a big thing. It has to be, all the safety measures has to be put in place. And I just hope it's not going to blight Ashake's December. He too has come out to, wish those that suffered some level of casualty in this well. But it's quite a very sad one, It's a blight on that very stellar performance. But it's not going to take away the fact that Nigerians are doing great. This is soft cultural power. Nigerian music selling out in the UK, doing quite well in other parts of the world. We're happy about that, but this should never repeat itself again. Absolutely. I mean, this is quite very sad. Very sad.
Dr. Abati.
Well, very sad. 8 persons injured, 2 dead, 1 more person in very critical condition, simply because these persons went to the Bristol O2 Arena to be part of an occasion of joy, of fun. In fact, one of the persons that died was a private security person who had been engaged to be there, and now this has happened. Well, it is important that the police in London are saying that they are already conducting investigations, and that they are, they are already looking at various scenarios, and we hope that that will prevent, a reoccurrence of this kind of event at that particular venue, and that appropriate lessons will be learned. Not just in terms of crowd control, but also in terms of how event organizers match the venue with the capacity of the venue, with the number of persons to whom tickets are sold. Because that particular O2 center, we're told the maximum capacity is just around 5,000 or 4,900.
That's it.
So there was a stampede because, maybe tickets were over, so maybe, but that's the job of the London Metropolitan Police. The other thing to add here is that if this had happened in Nigeria, we would have been saying, oh, this is the typical Nigerian thing. People are cutting corners. But this was in London.
In London, yeah.
A center that we tend to use oftentimes as some kind of major reference. As for Ashake's music, well, he's doing very well.
He is.
And I do not think that this will constitute any setback for him. Yeah. It was good, of course, that the show had to be cancelled, and that he has identified with the victims.
Absolutely.
But this is the thing about art. Sometimes it's not your art that is the problem. Sometimes it's the environment of the execution that is the problem.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Dr. Abati. He did commiserate with the victim, and it was good that he came out to, do that as well. May their souls rest in peace. We'll take another story. Reactions are trailing the 2-year prison sentence handed to the Director General of the Peter Obi Presidential Campaign Council, Donyi Okupe, by a federal high court sitting in Abuja. On Monday, social media was abuzz after the presiding judge, Justice Ijeoma Ojukwu, sentenced the Labour Party DG for breaching the Money Laundering Act. Okupe was found guilty of 26 out of a 59-count charge proffered against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The judge handed down the sentence after witnesses, including former Anambra Governor Chukwuemeka Ezife, Okupe's wife and son, testified to his good character. The court, however, gave an option of a 13 million naira fine, that is 500,000 naira for each of the 26 counts, which was to be paid before 4:30 p.m. on Monday. Okupe paid the sum to avoid passing a night in prison.
Please, give him space. Let him talk. That's right. Get that to your head. Please, don't harass me here. This is a complex office. Like, people should calm down. I beg you in the name of God. Allow him to sort out himself. By 4:30, if he cannot sort out, then it's a wrong one. Thank you.
All right, let's take some reactions. This is from Rock, who wrote, "This case is easy because it is not criminal. He didn't steal from anyone. He violated the money laundering laws by receiving cash in excess. The fine is a punishment. Same way if you deposit above 500,000 naira into savings account, you'll be charged 3% of the excess." Well, Daniel wrote, "Doyin Okupe has been sentenced to prison for money laundering. The federal government acted quickly, but is yet to prosecute members of the APC and PDP who committed similar crimes, reportedly. Insane. If the Nigerian justice system is functioning, 99.99% of Nigerian politicians will be in prison." Unfortunately, Ayo, this is the rhetoric everywhere, obviously, because, you know, as one of my Twitter user wrote, he did violate the Money Laundering Act, and, you know, obviously he should pay the fine, which he has paid as well. But a lot of people are saying, I mean, why is it that they went to Doyin Okupe first?
Right, so that's usually what happens. So we need to make up our minds. On one hand, we're saying that we want public officers want to make, you know, let the EFCC's prosecution prosecute public office holders. And on the other hand, when we, you know, when one is prosecuted, then people say that, oh, it's a witch hunt. Why did you go for this one? Why didn't you go for the others? But let's focus on Doyin Okupe. Why is this trending, and why are people interested in this news? Obviously, number one is that very top on that, which some, you know, newspaper headlines mischievously put Peter Obi's ally, you know, sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, because he is indeed, like you mentioned, the Director General of the Peter Obi Presidential Council campaign. And so, because of the fact of, that Peter Obi's campaign represents for a number of people a hope of a new Nigeria, a deviation from the old and in with the new. So for a number of people, getting this story is a bit of a letdown or a disappointment. However, going back to the first tweet, we must understand what he was in court for. So in 2019, the EFCC filed this suit against him that he collected a sum of, up to the tune of over 700 million, alongside others mentioned in the defense, as to the fact that he had taken money from the NSA, Colonel Sambo Dasuki, retired, and the money wasn't recorded. And there were 59 counts. Out of the 59 counts, the courts threw out 33 counts and just was able to find him guilty for 26 out of those counts. For the 39 counts, the reason why they were thrown, the 33 counts, the reason why they were thrown out was because there wasn't enough evidence to demonstrate that he didn't get the authorization of his principal at the time, which was President Goodluck Jonathan, but that he could be found guilty under the Money Laundering Act of 2011, amended now of 2022, prohibition and prevention. So these are the big issues. He shouldn't have had 10 million naira, which was given at different times during that period, where he didn't seem to pass through any financial institution. And these are the questions you should ask. Another question, again, this brings rise to the CBN's policy on the naira notes and mopping up the naira in the system. The others whom they have recovered these large sums of money from, I hope the EFCC is also investigating and getting more politicians who have, you know, large sums of money that haven't gone through the financial institution.
Absolutely. Rufai, how do you think this affects the Peter Obi campaign, really quickly?
No, it's out there. The story is out there. When it broke yesterday, Ayo, thank you so much for the stellar job as regards this. And the Peter Obi campaign has reacted. I think I was watching on television when they said they would look at the case and see. It is on them to make that decision if he's still going to remain their DJ or not, because he's going on appeal. So apart from paying the 13 million, he also wants to go on appeal, you know, to be able to clear his name. He was not found guilty for money laundering charges, you know, because a lot of newspapers reported like that yesterday. What he was found for was violating, you know, provisions set aside in the Money Laundering Act concerning a certain threshold. You know, if you take over 5 million in cash, you must be able to report it and all of that. That's what it was found for. But it's on the Labour Party to be able to make that decision. But I think for me, the most important part of this conversation that everybody's been missing is, let's dial back to what happened. The fact that state funds were used in politics. And that is what we should look back at in this country and ask ourselves truly, what kind of country do we want? And it's not only in this case. I'm sure when this administration leaves, we'll be able to hear how much has been used also as regards state funds in politics. And most of the political candidates running, how much they use funds that ought to be used for the state in politics. So I'm not saying politicians cannot run, but when they run, can they raise their funds? Can they go on GoFundMe? But not because they are incumbents, the state fund is being used. And I think that's the grand conversation here about the monies that were released. And when we have this conversation with ourselves, then we can push forward as a country that we truly want to have.
Right.
But the man, the legal terms are out there. He's paid. There was a provision of a fine. He's paid the fine, so he's not going to prison. Because I also hear people carrying all the stories that he is going to prison. He didn't go to prison, and he's also moving ahead to be able to appeal this. That's what is on ground here.
Well, all right. Shall we take another story then? The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, on Monday countered a whistleblower's claim that the federal government did not negotiate with Twitter to lift the suspension of its operations in the country. The whistleblower, a former Twitter employee, Peter Mujzatko, recently made the allegation to the United States Federal Trade Commission. Well, in June 2021, Nigeria's federal government announced the indefinite suspension of Twitter's operation in the country after the platform deleted tweets made by President Muhammadu Buhari, who had threatened to treat members of the indigenous people of Biafra in the language they understand. While speaking at the 13th edition of the administration's scorecard in Abuja on Monday, the minister said there was a long-drawn negotiation between Nigeria and Twitter at the instance of the latter.
A former Twitter staff that Twitter did not negotiate with the Nigerian government in the wake of the suspension of the microblogging site. This claim is so ludicrous that one could just have ignored it. Without mincing words, let me say that there was a long-drawn negotiation between Nigeria and Twitter at the instance of the latter. Following the suspension of the platform on June 4th, 2021, because of its persistent use for activities that are capable of undermining Nigeria's corporate existence.
Well, all right. It's good that the minister has come out to clarify and, counter that accusation. I guess there'll be more to this story as the story unfolds. We'll take our final story with this video showing the newly redesigned Naira notes that are already being counterfeited just about 4 days after they were rolled out to the public by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Let's take a look before we come back for a discussion.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Fake money is in town now. People should be very careful. This is the original one. Why this is the fake one? My wife, she's doing POS. Somebody gave her this money, and we don't know who gave it to her. We will later discover that it's a fake money. This is original, but this is the fake. It's the new 1,000 naira. You can notice this. This is the original one. With this, why the fake one don't have it? You can see it. So people should be very, very careful. The bad guys are already in town now. They are doing the fake one.
All right. I thought it was important to highlight the story and to see the difference between the notes. I mean, have you received the notes? Dr. Abati, have you gotten one already?
Well, it's difficult to even get the notes.
Yeah?
Maybe if you go to a bureau de change or you go to a party by the weekend, maybe you will get. But let everybody realize that one of the reasons why these new notes were introduced was to check counterfeiting.
Yes.
And the CBN had made a point that, look, this new note is not easy to counterfeit. You can't even photocopy it. And there are features on it. The elevated print, the features, the pictures, and that there are pictures that have been embedded. For instance, if you put a note inside under light, right, the color of a certain line there will change from black to green. So those features are there, and let everyone know this also. It is an offense to be found with a counterfeit note or to produce one under Section 20 of the CBN Act. And it's only the CBN under Section 16, 17, and 19 of the CBN Act that is given the powers to produce notes. As for the earlier one by the Minister of Information, Peter Zako had left Twitter as head of security in 2020. He was not even a staff of Twitter, as at the time, in June 2021, we had that issue in Nigeria. He had left like a year earlier. So, testifying before the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, how was he commenting on something he was no longer part of? And the minister had already provided concrete evidence of intervention by the Twitter head in the Middle East, Europe, and Africa, and a list of the team that negotiated. Wow. You know, so those are facts. I think in that regard, the Minister of Information is holding the strong end of the wicket.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for your great analysis, as always. Yeah. Well, that's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
And that's all on today's edition of The Morning Show. Rotus Odiri will be here next to take you through Global Business Report. Stay with us. It's still the Arise News Channel.
Papa, mama, brother, sister. This Lagos must work for all of us. Everybody down
Oh yes, Lagos people. Papa, mama, sister, brother, auntie, plus including uncle them. Better don't land for Lagos State gidigba. Money will be for Lagos State, then go use them for Lagos State. Wella, no more Baba Sope. They no go chop Lagos State money. Nobody go pocket Lagos State. Then go take and build Lagos State, build road, build hospital, build houses, and now only one man fit do this job.